2003 election debate. Now, let's meet the candidates.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Island Vote 2003 election special. I'm Heather Holmes. And over the next half hour, we'll be talking with the candidates running for the 1st legislative district in Nassau County. The 1st district covers the communities of Baldwin, Hempstead, Merrick, Roosevelt, and Uniondale. Ricky LaRosa of Uniondale, a career counselor for the town of Hempstead, is running on the Republican line. The incumbent, Kevon Abrahams, is running on the Democratic Independence and Working Families lines. Gentlemen, welcome both of you to News 12 Long Island. Well, before we begin, here are the rules and format of this debate. Now, each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement. Each will have a minute and a half to answer each question and 30 seconds for rebuttal when needed. At the end of the debate, both candidates will have 1 minute for closing statements. We start now with opening statements. Speaking order was decided by lot prior to the show. We begin first from Ricky LaRosa.
Thank you, Heather. The camera's not on. My camera's not on there. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ricky LaRosa, and here we are again. It's been 1 year since our last debate, and there are many issues which have to be addressed, and I'm going to address them hopefully today. The incumbent, Kevon, is a great person, and he's done a great job. But that's not enough for our community. If you notice in the articles, in the English and the Spanish papers, I've put myself on the line with positions, for example, taking issues on the crisis in Iraq, taking issues with slave reparations, taking issues which none of the mainstream politicians want to put on the table. I will put them on the table. I don't consider myself a politician. I consider myself a community activist. And I will bring order for once to this body, the legislative. As your legislator, I will make sure that your concerns are heard. Our community is hurting very badly, and we need a legislator that's going to be out there in the streets, walking and talking to the people.
All right, thank you, Ricky. Now let's go ahead. Opening statements from you, Kevon.
Thank you, Heather. First, I would like to thank News 12 for putting together this type of forum for the people. It gives them the opportunity to be educated on the process, as well as get an idea on my opponent, Ricky LaRosa, as well as get ideas of my views and my vision for Nassau County and the district of District 1. First of all, I like to say that I've been there fighting for our district since day one. Together, we have put together gang seminars. We have put together informational sessions. I've provided every single resource to my constituents so they can have the best representation possible. I think Nassau County is beginning to turn the corner. Hopefully today we'll be able to announce a budget package as well as a union package, which basically allows the county to get into fiscal order and allow us to move forward in the county. Never before does this happen in the last 10 to 15 years. We're going to have fiscal stability, and I think that's one of the most important things among my residents, tied into as well gang issues and among other things that we're going to talk about today.
All right, thank you, Kevon. Let's go ahead and now begin with some questions. And Ricky and Kevon, both of you talked about the fiscal instability of Nassau County. Ricky, let's begin with you. How do you plan to get the county back on its feet?
Okay, Mr. Swazi came in into this victory promising a $100 million spending cut. He's done the opposite. He spent $500 million instead of cutting. Okay, as legislator, I will make sure that our spending will be capped at a certain level, and we'll stop spending. We can't spend more than we have income in revenues. Okay, and that's my main priority. Will be make sure capping the spending and not increasing taxes.
All right. What about you, Kevon?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's very easy to say, throw out a statement of that the county spending $500 million and simply, you know, we need to cut spending. $500 million is made up of state mandates. There's stuff that the state requires us to basically fund. So those types of things we have to do. And that's pretty much the $500 million. I don't want to get into, you know, the county executive and his proposals, because I would like to debate the issues of District 1 and specifically the gangs and so on and so forth. But just to address it, I think number one, the county executive has cut the workforce by 1,100 employees. That's a great savings. We also passed a CSEA contract recently in the past weeks, which also is going to create, which has created a $16 million savings, or maybe even $25 million savings. So from that standpoint, I definitely think we have gone in the right direction in terms of cutting expenses, and we're not the tax and spend liberals that, you know, a lot of Republicans like to label us with. We have made the tough decisions. We have cut expenses, and I think the county county is definitely moving forward.
Come on, you said that one issue really plaguing your district is that of violence, and namely gang violence. And our own crime reporter, Mary Beth McDade, has really touched on the gang violence problem and recently uncovering the problem of female gangs. So what do you think needs to be done to address that ongoing problem?
Well, I think I always say that the gang problem needs to be addressed with 5 components. I think parents, I think our educators in the schools, I think our youth board people, of course our police, and naturally, hopefully, I think clergy to some extent should play a role in a lot of our kids. What I tried to do and what I did this past year is I held 2 gang informational seminars, which basically one was provided with law enforcement and youth board groups, and then the second was open up to parents and all types of youth board agencies and so on and so forth. Through these forums, I think we need to get the information out there. I think people want to help, but they don't know how to help. And I think once we're able to get the information out there, and once we start providing activities and programs which are going to be able to benefit our kids, we'll start to see a change. And I'm really convinced of that. And I think we're starting to see it little by little with programs starting to change the way they do things on an everyday basis.
All right, Ricky, what do you think? What can we do to get our young people from joining gangs?
Okay, we need to concentrate on school retention. We're losing a lot of our kids to drop out, high school dropouts. We have a high number of girls getting teenage pregnancy. We need viable after-school programs, okay, for our kids so they can be off the street. That period between 3 to 7 is the period that we're losing the kids to crime, and we're losing them to doing things just hanging out. And as legislator, I would go one step further. I would propose a law that if you're over the age of 18 and you're convicted of a drug-related crime, whatever the offense is, whether it's especially if it's destruction to private property or bodily harm has occurred, you're not a citizen, I propose that you get deported. Because why are we going to spend all this money to put you in jail when that money could be better spent for just social services? And I will definitely would like to see you deported. And that law will affect not law-abiding citizens. It's going to affect only the criminals. That's what I would do.
Well, what do you think about that proposal, Kevon?
Well, I'd have to take a look into the legalities of it. Immigration is handled by the federal government, and anything in regards to deportation is not something that we could do on the county level. Basically, from the county level, I mean, we could pass tougher laws and we could put more restrictions in, but in terms of deportation, it really has to come from the federal level. So,
but what do you think about the idea of if you're convicted of a crime, that aspect? Do you think that might help curb some of the violence?
It was to my knowledge, up to a few years ago, that concept was already in place. But I mean, I would definitely want to talk to my legal people to make sure that it's actually something that we could do.
All right, Ricky, next question for you. Let's talk a little bit about economic development. A lot of people falling victim in this sluggish economy. How do you plan to create a little bit more jobs for people out there?
Okay. Heather, I'm still at my day job with as a career counselor, and I see firsthand every day hundreds of people come through our office. They're losing their jobs. In August alone, the statistics said that we lost 96,000 jobs nationwide. We have no more industrial base. We have no more manufacturing base. And I'm against the NAFTA agreement from 10 years ago. I'm against it still because it's only hurt our workers and our union workers. Whatever left is of the union workers. We only have 14% union workers in this country. And we need to, in particular for District 1, to bring back that manufacturing base, which we used to have, especially in Freeport. It's a ghost house. It's no longer there. We need, of course, through tax incentives, through tax abatement, but we need to really aggressively, as a body, as a whole body, try to bring these jobs back because we're losing them, Heather. They're going to New Jersey, they're going to Florida, they're going to Mexico, and we're hurting here. We're really hurting here for those jobs.
What about you, Kevon? How do you see bringing some more jobs to your district?
Well, I mean, economic development is definitely one of the top priorities that I started out with. Take, for example, the Roosevelt community, an area that if you drive down Nassau Road, what we call the Nassau Road corridor, a lot of buildings in disrepair, a lot of vacant lots, which we're seeing. And basically what we need to do is by attracting businesses into the community, we need to bring businesses into the community that are just not going to get a financial benefit, but they really need to understand that they're going to provide a community benefit. And what I mean by that is basically when they come in and decide to set up shop, we should also get more bang for the buck. We should be able to get more rec centers and more funding for some of our programs. That's what we should try to build towards, and that's what we should be expecting from these businesses.
Both of you kind of talked a little bit about getting the jobs in, but how do you attract people to your district? Ricky? Well,
traditionally in the past has been with tax abatements, but the problem there was they would start paying taxes after 5 years, for example, the full taxes, and then those companies would get up and leave. So we have to try to maybe set up an account where they would definitely stay. If they leave, then they would be penalized. That would be the idea, to make sure that they stay here.
Do you agree with that idea, Kavan?
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that idea. I think one more step to go further is that I think we have to show businesses that this is the place to be. And the way you do that is by showing that Nassau County is back on track. Everything ties in together. The fiscal situation, the crime in Nassau County. There's a reason why Nassau County was the greatest county in America, and I believe it could be restored to the greatest county in America. And what we need to do is, by thinking ahead and thinking advance, let's bring in some more high-tech jobs. The average blue-collar job may not be the job that most businesses want to set up. Maybe they want to set up more high-tech jobs, more skilled labor, stuff like that. So we need to bring our people in, we need to bring our unions in, and start to train them in these types of positions, in this type of development. And then we'll start to see the successes in terms of economic development.
Let's go ahead now and talk about some of the youth programs. Both of you address that issue, and really that may be the key in stopping and curbing gang violence. Kavan, what are some of your ideas for the youth of your district?
Well, number one, I mean, definitely you want to provide more resources. I think by providing the resources and by getting more kids in place into more programs is always a good way to do it. But it can't be all solved with just putting more money into it. There has to be a greater concern, like I said from before, from those 5 entities. And they have to start to collaborate more. One of the things I can commend the county executive on was he tried to put together a program called Roosevelt Tag, which was constructed towards gang involvement. But at the same time, at least it starts the communication among the 5 entities and even more greater entities. So I do applaud them on that effort. But most importantly, I think we need to provide more resources and a more hopeful outlook for our children. And that could be done in the schools as well as in our youth board programs.
And I know, Ricky, that you agree with that, getting to them at an early age. You said age 3 to 7, I think. But how do you do that when you're so financially strapped, especially in Nassau County? How do you do that?
That's a hard question. I want to give you statistics that I found out recently, and they were saying that there was a report in the Assembly that the legislators want to know the 4th grade test results for young black and Hispanics. And based on that statistics, that's how they're going to plan for building jails, okay? And that might be true as far as on paper, but that's an insult to our community. Okay, when I heard that, I almost flipped off my chair. You know, for them to assume, because those kids, those 2 particular entities are doing bad in 4th grade, that they're going to grow up to be criminals, and then we need to build. That's an insult to our community. We need daycare, better daycare facilities. Maybe give companies tax incentives to provide for better daycare. We need the viable after-school programs. We need the gang problem in Urindale and Freeport and Roosevelt is very bad, and we need to reach out. I ran for school board 3 times already in Hampstead, twice in Urindale, and when I bring up these issues, as far as meeting with our legislators or meeting with our state assemblies, everyone tries to wash their hand. Everyone tries to say, well, that issue doesn't concern them, or that issue doesn't concern us. You know, and we have to. That's the problem we have. There's no communication at the different tiers of government, from the elected officials at the school level, the legislator, the assemblyman. That's what I've seen has been the problem, and we need to all of us come together and communicate for the betterment of our community.
Thank you. When we come back, we'll continue with the Nassau legislative debate for District 1. We're going to talk about the environment, affordable housing, and much more. Keep it right here on News 12 Long Island. Tires.